Okay, welcome everybody. Mike Guilfoyle. As I mentioned, if anybody of you just saw the general session, pardon me, we're going to dig in a little more deeply to some of the issues that we surfaced there. The great thing is that we have, from this morning's conversation, Jane Arnold and Mike Carroll, but we have some other folks that were kind enough to attend. The other two panelists in Chandra Brown and Jim Bielstein, so they're going to be here as well. But this is meant to be a conversation, not a presentation. And this is meant to be driven by people who clearly, they know what they're talking about. They've got a lot of good ideas, but they also want to hear ideas as well. So Mark Sengupta and I will be supporting this session, and then later in the day at 2 o'clock, we'll be supporting the session around digital workforce as well with the same group of four presenters. So a couple housekeeping issues, please silence your phone. When we're done, we'd love to get your feedback on what you feel about this style of more conversational session. So please, in the app, go ahead and rate us. That would be great. If you would like more sessions like this, please let us know. And again, please silence your phone. And if I haven't mentioned it, please silence your phone. So what we're going to talk about today is scalability and why it's so difficult to achieve and then sustain as well. And, you know, there are a number of different problems. There's some usually confluence around some of these issues where people really struggle with data. How do they get to it? What do they do with it? What does it mean? How does it change over time? And then also, of course, they run into technology issues. They pursue technology as the end goal with the data in mind in terms of bringing the two together. And so their digital transformation initiatives become essentially a pursuit in technology. And then, of course, it's underpinned, as we talked about this morning, around a lot of poor strategic vision or the idea that I've got to prove something to my leadership or I've got to do something my leadership told me to do. So when that happens, I'm going to turn toward my technology and my data, and I'm going to try to figure something out so that I can say, hey, this is what digital transformation should look like. And then underneath it all, you have the hardest thing to unwind, but the most critical thing when it comes to successful, scalable digital transformation, and that's people and culture. Because when you get at that, you're getting at the root cause, the root barrier. You know, what really needs to shift? It's people's thinking and how they approach business. And because of that, it is the most difficult thing to unwind because it can be confrontational in nature. You're talking about really different transformational change. You're talking about something that you've never perhaps done before. And so people have to get on board with that and rethink what that means. And often that means pointing out to them that, hey, what we were doing, it's not going to help us in the future. So one of the things that I think when people work through that process is they always land on, well, you know what? I'm going to look at digital transformation as a business need because that way I can work through what it means and I can scale it. And here's inevitably what happens when they really start to move past the technology and say, well, let me think about this operationally. So the business need gives them the definition for what change has to occur. That gives them a filter for the data, the processes, the people, the technology, the customers, and the problems involved. And the idea is that gives them focus for what digital transformation means to their organization. And they go, hey, if I can do that, I can repeat it elsewhere in my organization. And I'll take a crawl, walk, run approach to scale. And that makes perfect sense. That makes absolute perfect sense. But then something inevitably pops up, because you get in the business of replication, not transformation. So everybody starts out super excited. Hey, let's do this. Or even a group starts out really excited, whatever your scale is of people involved. And then you say, that's a lot of data. That's some tricky data. Let me dial that back because the data issue is too big. I just want to deal with that little piece of it because I think I can manage that. And then you go, I can't stand those people. They're always the problem. Don't even tell them we're doing this. We'll spring it on them after the fact to make them look bad. So you run into those people issues, and sometimes those people issues, as I mentioned, are confrontational. Sometimes you just find people have different understandings of what should be done, but you run into those people issues. So then you go, let's stay away from that. Again, let's bring it in a little bit. That's a lot of change. We're not ready for it. So let's take one little slice of that and let's work on that because we think we can do that. Oh, well, that solution we were going to use, we found out we can't do that. Not allowed. We've got rules around what we can do with the cloud, for example. Not allowed. So that prohibits all of that way of thinking. So then this is what you end up with. This is your change. It's manageable. It's a business need, but it's not transformational. It's incremental. So that's really a process that companies go through over and over and over and over again in terms of trying to figure out how do we take these great ideas, these things that we've been told we can do, and scale them. So I would like to introduce our two facilitators, many of whom you heard speaking this morning, Jane Arnold of Covestro and Mike Carroll of Georgia Pacific. They're going to lead the conversation, so please be willing to be engaged, ask questions, share what you know. We want to make this a dialogue so that we are as peer-to-peer learning. We're expanding what we know and finding out answers to questions that we want to ask.